What if Tywin captured Roose Bolton when Robb took Jaime? Let's explore the depths of it in the video. Tywin Lannister watches as the Battle of the Green Fork rages before them. The Lannister forces had committed themselves fully now against their Northmen counterparts. Despite their exhaustion, they held themselves surprisingly well and refused to break. Yet, holding on was no victory. Though they had not broken yet, the gaps were starting to form in their lines between the Karstark and Cerwyn men. Tywin's eyes flickered there. He saw the opening there and ordered the reserves forward. Most would not have noticed this, and those who did were too hard-pressed to do anything about it. Their lines started to give way, and the arrival of fresh troops shattered them entirely. Yet the Northmen retreated in mostly good order. Rather than dropping their weapons and routing, horns were blared, and thousands of men disappeared past the Green Fork. Still, their armies were defeated, and Tywin can claim this victory. One that got only more complete as Ser Brax rode back with his riders. Half of them were gone, but the prisoner they took more than made up for it, Roose Bolton. The Lord of the Dreadfort was bound in chains, though his head was held high. He dipped his head and accepted captivity with dignity, graciously yielding to his army. Though Robb Stark was not among them, it was still a victory nonetheless, especially with the capture of their enemy commander. Unfortunately, it would not feel like a victory for long, as the news arrived from Riverrun. The siege was broken, and Jaime Lannister was taken. The news takes all the wind out of the Lannister offensive and brings their assault to a halt. From complete success, they suddenly found half their forces gone and their armies at a standstill. For Tywin, it was a complete shock, and he had not expected Robb to maneuver so expertly and even take his son. This is a defeat that puts them on the back foot. His bannermen are in disarray and hurriedly send terms to Riverrun.
Lord Tywin sent terms. He's offered to trade Sir Jaime for my sisters. Seems like Lord Tywin thinks his son is a little girl. Begging your pardon, Lady Stark.
2 for 1. It is a generous offer from the likes of Lord Tywin.
It could be 3 to 1, and it wouldn't matter, little cat. Sir Jaime's dangerous, and he is heir. He'd do anything to get him back. Indeed. He also offers Lord Bolton and Willis Manderley without ransom if we agree to these terms. He says these men are commanders of the Stark army as well, and insists it is a generous offer. What do you think of it? He can insist all he likes, but not all commanders are worth the same. I don't doubt the loyalty of this Bolton or Manderley, but they are not a Lannister. Their loss stings, but it will not be a death blow to our cause.
Still, it will be an ill thing to leave our foot without a commander for so long. We must assign a commander to take command immediately.
I agree. I think Robert Glover would be the ideal fit. He is the most experienced of their remaining commanders, and I shall craft a letter informing Lord Tywin that his terms have been read and rejected.
The rest of the lords nod in agreement, and so word is sent out. Robert Glover takes command of the Northern Foot. He spends days resting and reorganizing them. Riders work to rally their scattered forces and prepare to deploy them. He lacks Roose's caution and marches back south. Though he does not attack Tywin, being outnumbered almost 2 to 1, he keeps close and begins recruiting reinforcements from scattered riverlords. Seeing the Northmen's army so close, many riverlords rally to his side and stiffen his army. But this is the least of Tywin's concerns, as Robb soon begins his offensive in the west, raiding the nearly underdefended Westerlands. He shatters what few forces were left there, including a major victory at Oxcross. Despite having only a force of 6,000, he can rampage unchecked, forcing Tywin to begin marching west to engage him, leaving Harrenhal almost undefeated. Smoke curls from the blackened towers of Harrenhal. The wind carries the scent of scorched flesh and ash through the broken halls. Inside the walls, Lannister guards grow complacent, unaware that a storm gathers just beyond the gate. Among the shadows, Arya Stark, still posing as Nan, stalks the empty corridors with silent purpose. Beside her, Jaqen H'ghar appears, stepping lightly through the Godswood like a ghost.
Give a name, any name.
And you kill them. Anybody.
By the 7 new gods and the old gods beyond counting, I swear it.
All right. Jaqen H'ghar.
H'ghar gives a man his own name?
That's right.
Gods are not mocked. This is no joking thing.
I'm not joking. Man can go kill himself.
Unname me.
No.
Please?
I'll unname you.
Thank you.
If you help me and my friends escape.
This would require more than one life. This is not part of our bargain.
Fine. Jack and Hagar.
A girl lacks honor.
Yes. We need Harrenhal.
A girl speaks. A man obeys.
In moments, Jaqen vanishes into the dark. Outside the castle, Robert Glover crouches beside his captains, watching the outlines of Harrenhal. Torches flicker along the ramparts, but the defenses are thin. But the castle is a fortress, and his initial assaults have already failed. He must plan his next move carefully lest this become a slog. But as his scouts return, they bring the strangest news. A commotion inside the castle. Inside, Arya creeps to the gatehouse. 2 guards lie dead, their throats cleanly slit. Blood pools beneath them. With both hands, she lifts the heavy gate bar alongside Biter and Rorge. The gates open up. Robert is the first to see things. His eyes widen at the sight, and then he sees a group of servants waving them forward. Blinking, the Northern Lord quickly recovers from his shock, and the Northern banners surge forward. Steel meets steel in a violent clash. The Lannister soldiers, disoriented and leaderless, are overwhelmed by the fury of the North. Fires erupt across the yard. Screams echo through the night. By dawn, Harrenhal is taken. In the dungeons below, Roose Bolton sits chained to the wall, calm as ever. The door bursts open and Robert Glover strides inside, with drawn sword.
Roose Bolton, you took your time. Blame the Lannisters, and perhaps the gods. But we've come, and Harrenhal is ours. How did you take it? Some of the servants opened a gate. Seems they got sick of cleaning up after the Lannisters. Bring them to me. I would like to speak with them.
Robert nods, and in the Lord's Tower, Arya is brought before the 2 Northern Lords. Both men turn to her. She wears a solid tunic and a grim expression that doesn't match her age.
It seems we are in your debt, little one.
Who are you?
Arya Stark of Winterfell.
Then I'm the High Septon.
It's true. My father is Lord Eddard Stark. My mother is Catelyn Stark.
Any peasant girl knows that name.
My siblings are Robb, Bran, Sansa, Rickon, and Jon.
She knows of Jon.
Not just him. I know Master Luwin and Sir Roderick. I know about the direwolves.
Silence falls. Then Roose, ever unreadable, dips his head.
My lady, we owe you our thanks.
No, but my mother might. Will you take me to Riverrun?
I shall, with haste. Robert, you must hold Harrenhal. The Riverlords are rallying to our cause. We'll bleed the lion from here.
By noon, Roose and a picked bodyguard ride westward, dodging the patrols of Lannister men and riding through the burnt-out villages as Tywin tries to force his way west to confront Robb. On the walls of Riverrun, Catelyn Stark stares at the man in chains before her. Jaime Lannister says nothing, the keys to his manacles glinting in her trembling hand. A horn sounds at the gate.
Riders approaching! Northern banners!
Catelyn steps forward. Her heart lurches as she sees the flayed men of House Bolton, but ahead of them rides a smaller figure, a young girl with wolf's eyes.
Arya?
She doesn't wait. She's down the steps running to the gate as it creaks open, and then she sees him. Riding on the same horse as Roose, Arya Stark is there. She leaps off the horse and runs up to her mother.
Arya!
Mother!
Catelyn falls to her knees, clutching her daughter with both arms. Tears run freely down her face as the long-missed child buries her face in her shoulder. Behind them, the keys to Jaime Lannister's shackles fall from her hand, clattering to the stone.
How are you here? Where did you come from?
Harrenhal, my lady. It seems the child was taken prisoner and mistaken for small folk, but she helped capture the castle when Robert Glover attacked it. I realized it was best to escort her here as soon as possible.
My house owes you a great debt, Roose Bolton.
No, my lady. It is I who owe your house a great debt for saving my life. If I may offer some counsel, this means the Lannisters have only one piece to bargain with. Young Sansa. As long as we hold Sir Jaime, we still have leverage.
Catelyn looks at the key on the ground, the same one she was about to use to free Jaime Lannister. She realizes just how close she was to doing it, and how terrible it would have been if she had done that. This timing becomes even more important just a few days later, as Tywin is thrown back from the fjords and forced to retreat in disarray. Robert Glover takes the chance and hits his army hard. He batters the retreating Lannisters with the full strength of his northern and riverland army. He chases them as they retreat to the Crownlands, resulting in thousands of casualties. And yet Lord Tywin and most of his army manage to escape, and just in time too, as word reaches them of Stannis' invasion of Blackwater. Tywin, with his remaining army, manages to rejoin the Tyrell host and strikes at Stannis' rear. Despite his experience in warfare, the King of the Narrow Sea is unable to hold back their counterattack, and his army is shattered, resulting in the city being saved. This battle would have been a major success, but the only damper is that the Starks now know of the Lannisters' deception, and Jaime remains under lock and key. He becomes even more valuable now that Robb keeps him close. However, this is the only good news that the Starks get, as when Robb returns from the west, he comes bearing a wife and a broken oath, prompting the Freys to withdraw from Robert and Robb's armies. At the same time, they receive word of the Ironborn invasion. Theon had betrayed them. Roose advises that they keep Jaime close and take him north with them to ensure that no rescue attempt take place. He urges Robb to retreat and retake his core territories before considering making their next move. The King in the North reluctantly agrees and leaves Robert Glover with a small force of his most trusted men. Walder, although fuming at the betrayal, dared not act on his own and must instead satisfy himself by wringing whatever concessions he can from Robb, marrying a daughter to Edmure Tully, hosting more wards, and granting the Freys more positions of power. He also demands that Robb's firstborn marry a Frey. This at least secures their passage back to the north, where the Ironborn fall quickly. Though they capture multiple castles, they lack the means to hold them. They do not have the allies or numbers to hold territory. With the arrival of the Northern Army, the Ironborn have no answer, and the Northmen eagerly rise up against them. Within weeks, the Reavers are driven back to the sea, with only Deepwood Motte remaining in their hands. These victories help raise the flagging Stark morale, but Robb knows it doesn't matter. Winterfell has already fallen, and his brothers are gone. He wants to return south and continue the war with the Lannisters, but Robb cannot act right away, as a wildling army draws Robb's attention to the wall and forces him to deal with it. Thankfully, their forces are not prepared to deal with the full strength of the Northern Army. As the Free Folk begin their attack on the wall, they expect to face the dregs of the Night's Watch with a handful of experienced rangers, but not true opposition. However, as the gates open, they are stopped dead in their tracks as they see a line of Northern cavalry rushing forwards. The wildlings gasp and try to organize their defenses behind a small shield wall, but this stands little chance as they smash through them. At their head is Greatjon Umber, and Roose Bolton runs down their defenses. Even the giants stand no chance and are scattered. Within a day, the wildlings' host is shattered, with Mance and a few others barely managing to rally them. The king beyond the wall tries to rally his forces a few leagues east, but this effort is cut off by the arrival of a newcomer. This army is much better than the northern host, but no less experienced, and they crush the survivors, taking Mance and his family in captivity. The last thing he sees as he's clapped in chains is the Frey stag of Stannis, Baratheon. When they ride to Castle Black, both sides are surprised to see one another there.
King Stannis, what are you doing here? I have received word from Castle Black requesting aid against the Free Folk. It seems that we both received that message.
Indeed. I suppose we owe you our thanks for your support, but this does not raise the question of what shall happen now.
There is no question. I have made my stance clear. I shall rule the Seven Kingdoms. Nothing less. If you cannot accept these terms, then we have nothing further to discuss.
Nor should you, King Robb.
A woman suddenly pushes her way through the men. A few Northmen grumble, but make way for her. Brienne of Tarth makes her way forward, followed closely by Catelyn Stark. Both women eye the King of the Narrow Sea warily.
And why should I not offer my aid to the man who saved the Night's Watch?
Because he is a murderer and a kingslayer.
These are bold accusations, my lady. What proof do you have of them?
I saw the crime myself. A shadow crept up from Renly's tent. A shadow bearing the face of King Stannis. It slew Renly as he dressed for battle, before he could lead his men forward. Who else would try to do this but his brother, who promised him battle? As for proof, Lady Catelyn Stark was with me, and she saw it all, lest you call her a liar.
It is true. I recall what happened well. That creature drew a blade of shadows and cut clean through Renly's gorget and slipped out before we could even react. I also suspect it was Stannis.
What say you to these claims, Your Grace?
If you expect me to deny it and say I had no knowledge of it, I shall not. I am no Lannister. I own up to my actions. So yes, I did order Lady Melisandre to prevent Renly from leading his troops. I had no idea she would accomplish that, but I trusted her abilities. But if we are being upfront about it, then let us not forget that Renly had tried to seize the crown from under me. He who had no claim beyond what he thought he could seize without regard for the law. So yes, Call me what you want, Lady Brienne. But you are an oathbreaker, and a traitor as well.
I would gladly be condemned as an oathbreaker 1,000 times than serve the likes of you.
Enough! This arguing shall get us nowhere. While we are indeed grateful for your aid, King Stannis, the North cannot yield to you.
Then I have nothing further to discuss here. I will take my men back south, but when I have united the rest of the Seven Kingdoms, I will return to press my claim here.
The words are tense, and many wish to strike at Stannis' men, but Robb refuses to strike at the man who just rode so far north to help the Night's Watch. He says that they are not enemies yet, and he will not do something as dishonorable. Inside the main hall at Castle Black, torches flicker as snow beats against the stone walls. Robb Stark stands at the head of the table, surrounded by his bannermen and advisors. Brienne, Roose Bolton, and Catelyn Stark remain close. The tension from the meeting with Stannis still lingers in the air.
Stannis is gone. Let us speak freely now.
Then our course is clear. We cannot ally with that man. He used sorcery to murder his own blood. You heard him admit it.
Aye. And yet he still fought and bled beside us. He did not need to come here.
That doesn't cleanse his crime.
No, it doesn't. But we are desperate. We cannot hold the North alone forever. Not against Lannisters, not against Winter. Perhaps it's time we consider other options. Speak your mind, Lord Bolton. Blood magic. Sorcery. These are not things I speak of lightly, but I have studied such matters quietly in old scrolls and darker places. What Melisandre did, it is real. Dangerous, yes, but real. And perhaps we must consider using it. Sansa Stark remains under lock and key. This magic could prove useful in freeing her.
And you would use it?
So you support Stannis? I support survival. He may be ruthless, but he is not without honor. And unlike the Lannisters, he has made no move against the North. He came to help. We need allies, and we cannot afford to make an enemy of the one man who still fights the Lannisters. If peace is truly what we want, then perhaps the King in the North should set aside his crown. Treason!
We swore to the King in the North. He is our king until death.
I speak of terms, not surrender. We offer Stannis this. You will give up your crown if he swears to release Sansa Stark from King's Landing. We worry about his kinslaying, then let blood pay for blood. And if he names you Warden of the North, as your father was before you, I will ride with 5,000 men as your shield, and as a warning. The River Lords will follow me as well, even against him if I command it.
Send word. Lord Bolton will go south. Soon enough, a contingent of Northmen from multiple different houses comes riding out to reinforce Stannis, though a larger number of them are Dreadfort men whose loyalty is absolute. The Baratheon king is surprised by the support, but gladly accepts it as they march south. The conditions are accepted, as Stannis sees no reason not to return Sansa Stark, but he knows even with these reinforcements, they do not have a substantial army to risk battle with the Lannisters. They will need to pick up more troops along the way. However, the River Lords are exhausted and cannot provide too many soldiers. Roose instead advises Stannis to look to the remaining houses that have not committed to the war effort yet. The Vale and Dorne have untouched armies and little love for the Lannisters. It is simply a matter of recruiting them and showing them Stannis can provide them with aid. The king listens to all of this and looks at the Leech Lord.
And answer me this, Lord Bolton. A man like you rarely does anything out of the goodness of his heart. You are like Tywin Lannister in that way. There is always something that you seek to gain. I will know what it is, and no lies. You may think yourself crafty, but I have squeezed the truth out of men more than once. You flatter me with that comparison, Your Grace. Very well. Few kings have enough wisdom to simply ask their bannermen what they desire, so I shall indulge you. I wish to secure my house's position in the realm. When Robb Stark declared independence, that meant winning his favor, but northern independence is now dead, so that means winning the favor of the king. There are few chances for me to accomplish that with the Lannisters, especially since we have Sir Jaime. So, it seems my best path forward is with you, Your Grace. How pragmatic. Though I suppose I cannot complain too much now that you serve the rightful king. There is another thing.
I have a student with magic similar to the Red Woman. I admit I am intrigued by the prospect of learning a bit more about it.
Stannis raises an eyebrow, but says nothing. Instead, they continue their march south, and Roose says nothing more on the subject, least because of their other travel companion, Brienne of Tarth. Though the Leech Lord gives assurances of keeping Stannis in line, Catelyn is not convinced and sends someone else. The young woman is sworn to her, and has orders that should Stannis begin showing signs of madness, she is to rally the Northmen and kill him. But when they reach Moat Cailin, they are greeted with surprising news. The Lannisters might no longer be as big a threat as they feared. Joffrey Baratheon is dead, murdered by his uncle, according to some. This momentarily leaves the city in chaos, and as they try to consolidate and strengthen their alliance with the Tyrells, they now must deal with the Sparrows, who flock to King's Landing. This leaves them with a brief opportunity to act. Stannis makes good on his promise to search for Sansa Stark, calling upon Melisandre, who peers into the flames day and night. After days of ritual, she declares that Sansa is no longer in the city, but as to where she is, she cannot answer that. At the same time, Lannister forces try to reassert control in the Riverlands. They send Randall Tarly to try and take control of Harrenhal and Maidenpool, but face stubborn resistance from Robert Glover, who remains with his forces. They are further reinforced by Stannis. Harrenhal remains in northern hands, and when Randall attempts to push into Maidenpool, Stannis beats him to it, and their forces clash in a bloody battle around the walls. Neither side reaches the town, but the cowardly Lord Mooten launches a rear attack on Lord Randall, forcing him to retreat. After the battle, Stannis begins to secure the Riverlands, treating its residences fairly. He does not push them for siding with Robb Stark, and offers his aid to rebuild and deal with bandits. This wins him the love of the Riverlords, who rally to his cause. But as that happens, Roose Bolton begins laying political foundations of his own. Knowing the Martells mourn Oberyn, he sends Raven south, offering alliance. He proposes a marriage between Edmure Tully, regardless of previous commitments to the Freys, and now is under their custody, and Arianna Martell, a diplomatic gesture aimed at binding Dorne and the Riverlords against the Iron Throne. The Dornish receive these words but do not respond, continuing to wait and listen. While they hate Tywin and are eager to fight him, Prince Doran has plans and waits. In the meantime, Roose turns to other groups who could help them, and Melisandre suggests another. The only other known followers of R'hllor in Westeros, the Brotherhood Without Banners. Beric Dondarrion, resurrected again and again by the Lord of Light, meets with them.
The Lord of Light demands sacrifice, but he rewards obedience.
The Brotherhood slowly aligns itself with Stannis, launching raids against Lannister supply lines and gathering information. Some of them even begin spreading their attacks on the Reach to let them feel the terror of the war as they ambush troops of Tyrell soldiers and prevent them from striking at Harrenhal. Although their efforts weaken the Lannister cause, they only delay it and do not turn the tide of the war. However, they face another foe, with the Sparrows also turning against them as they see the Lord of Light as nothing more than a demon. They preach against Stannis to the small folk, urging them to rise against him. However, the reaction is mixed, as many are happy to simply return home, knowing that their lands are at peace. Those who do take up arms soon begin to clash with Stannis' men in the Brotherhood. Meanwhile, in King's Landing, Tywin prepares for another offensive. He's managed to secure the alliance with the Tyrells by marrying off Tommen to Marjorie, and with their cooperation, he plans another attack on the Riverlands that he will lead personally. The Sparrows begin to vanish. At first, it's subtle, one or two from outlying villages. Then whole bands disappear, their cries snuffed out like candles in the night. The Brotherhood whispers of red justice. Word spread that Melisandre is behind it, taking the most zealous and brutal of the fanatics and offering them to the Lord of Light. Each night, she lights her pyres. Each night, Roose Bolton watches alongside a few of their most devoted followers. They do this in absolute secrecy, letting no one, especially Brienne, observe these matters.
They condemn in the name of the gods who gave no answer. Now the Lord of Light answers us.
While the Queen's men chant and sing to the fire, Roose watches with an inquisitive gaze, more concerned with what there is to gain and learn from these efforts. His mind is elsewhere, thinking of how these powers can be used.
You burn them to see visions. Do you see anything of the girl?
She hides in cold stone, high, far above the clouds. She weeps, but she is guarded. The wolf's blood is strong in her.
Roose's eyes narrow. He understands. Only one place in Westeros matches such a description. Roose Bolton arrives at the gates of the Vale. flanked by members of his personal guard. But from the shadows, they are watched by Melisandre and the Brotherhood. He carries a sealed letter and the sigils of both House Stark and King Stannis.
I come as an emissary of Robb Stark and Stannis Baratheon, rightful king of the Seven Kingdoms. We seek peace with the Vale, and perhaps aid.
He is granted entry along with his party. There is a sense of urgency in his movements as his men glance at one another. After deserting Stannis' army, he received word that Tywin had marched out with a massive army, one too large for them to simply defeat in battle. Nearly 40,000 swords, including the men of Randall Tarley's force. Stannis is fighting multiple delaying actions, but Tywin's advance feels inevitable as he captures the salt pans and several small towns. Maidenpool is threatened too, as Stannis tries to draw them in while Lord Beric raids their supply lines. It is a slow effort, but it wears them down. However, this battle favors Tywin as the riverlands burn. Roose and Melisandre are acutely aware that time is not on their side, and in the halls of the Eyrie, he sees her. Sansa Stark, disguised as Elena Stone, stands behind Peter Baelish, head bowed, feigning the role of his bastard daughter. But Roose is no fool. He's seen her mother. He knows that face. Their eyes meet, just for a moment. He sees the Tully features. They begin negotiations with Roose presenting his terms. Guaranteed protection against the Iron Throne, Robert Arryn married to a woman of their choice in the north, that the Starks shall help protect the Vale's waters. They were reasonable terms, but Littlefinger has no interest in them. He saw the way Roose looked at Sansa and knew that he might be onto them. Instead, he claims his loyalty to House Baratheon of King's Landing and has Roose detained. He is confined in the sky cells, the cold wind howling at his back. But as Melisandre watches this from her dreams, she knows that the time to act is now. Along with Brienne, she begins to meet with the Vale Lords, like Jon Royce, who are wary of Littlefinger's growing influence. In Runestone's high council chambers, she stands before Lord Jon Royce and assembles Vale Lords, flames flickering in the sconces behind her.
You are being misled. The man who calls himself your protector hides, treason behind the courteous smile.
Littlefinger has kept the Vale safe. He has avoided war, or so he claims.
We have little reason to love Lord Baelish, but he has given us no reason to overthrow him.
Hasn't he? He claims loyalty to the Iron Throne, yet shelters a traitor's daughter, Sansa Stark, living here under your roof in plain sight. He claims to love Catelyn Stark, yet delivered her daughters into Lannister hands. King Stannis has dealt with men with this kind of loyalty before, so ask yourselves, how long until his schemes drag you into fire and blood?
If what you say is true, then Lord Baelish may be playing both sides.
There is one way to tell. To search the castle and present Lady Elena to Catelyn Stark.
To that, all the Vale Lords agree, and they begin mobilizing their men to surround the Eyrie and prevent any more supplies from reaching them while demanding an audience with Littlefinger. Inside the cold, lofty halls of the Eyrie, Peter Baelish greets them with a thin smile.
Lords of the Vale, what an unexpected honor. Spare us your courtesies, Baelish. Where is the northern emissary you imprisoned?
Lord Bolton came under false pretenses. Releasing him might be seen as treason.
You warned us not to commit treason by interfering in this war. Now you imprison envoys?
Take us to the dungeons now.
Littlefinger hesitates, but the steel in their eyes leaves no room for denial. He turns, cloak fluttering, and leads them down to the icy depths of the Eyrie. They find Roose Bolton confined in a sky cell, barely shielded from the wind, his expression as calm and cutting as ever.
I wondered how long it would take you to realize your Lord Protector is more serpent than man.
They return to the Great Hall, the air tense. Brienne of Tarth stands near Sansa, her blue eyes fixed, puzzled. Then the flicker of realization strikes.
Lady Sansa?
Sansa freezes. Her eyes dart to Littlefinger, then to the assembled lords.
I knew your mother. You look just like her.
It's true. I'm Sansa Stark, and I've been hiding under the name Elena Stone. Lord Baelish told me it was the only way I'd survive.
I saved her from the Lannisters. I brought her here.
And yet you told us to stay out of the war.
There is no trial, only swift judgment. Peter Baelish is dragged to the moon door. He pleads, not for mercy, but for relevance. The moon door opens. Baelish screams. but only once as Roose pushes him through. He falls. But his death raises a new question. What shall be done now? And the answers seem to come easily to the Vale Lords. Littlefinger had pledged loyalty to the Lannisters, those who they believed murdered their beloved Jon Arryn, so they will fight alongside Stannis, who bears the Baratheon banner. The Vale Lords swear allegiance to Stannis Baratheon. Thousands of knights pour down from the mountains, banners high and swords gleaming. They march westward to the heart of the Riverlands, just as the war rages. The Red Fork churns with blood and silt as Stannis Baratheon's army scrambles to cross. His men are weary, their armor dented, their banners scorched. The Lannister host presses from behind, a steel tidal wave commanded by Tywin Lannister, unrelenting in its pursuit. He had been waging a fighting retreat for weeks, buying time for people to escape, and keeping the Lannisters occupied. It was a long and difficult process, and in the end, there is now nowhere else to go. Yet even with his army and the Rever Lords who rallied to his side, Stannis is outnumbered, almost 2-1. The wind stinks of ash and sweat, and as they reach the Twins, there is no more escaping. He knows that old Walder is a crafty man and won't commit to anything, so instead Stannis calls for a halt and prepares to face them. He strides to the front ranks, plants his stag banner beside a flaming log, and draws Lightbringer, the glowing red sword casting its hue across soot-covered faces.
We hold here. We fight here. Let them break upon us.
The Lannisters charge. They crash like a hammer against a rock. The sound of it, the metallic scream of swords, the grunt of armored men falling, the wail of horses dying, is deafening. Garland leads the Lannister vanguard, cutting through the pikemen like grass. Tywin's cavalry presses the flanks, trying to envelop the Baratheon lines. Archers rain death from a distant ridge. Stannis' center begins to buckle. Men die screaming beneath the red haze of Lightbringer. Stannis fights at the fore, blood streaking his jaw, shouting orders.
Hold the line! With me!
But the Lannister numbers are too great. The Baratheon host is thinning. Death is tightening its grip. Then it comes. Horns. Not Lannister. Not Baratheon. Vale. From the eastern ridge, a thunder of hooves echo across the field. The Knights of the Vale, resplendent in silver and blue, descend like a vengeful storm. Jon Royce leads the charge, bronze armor gleaming, voice bellowing like a war horn.
For the Vale! For the North!
They slam into Tywin's flank with the force of an avalanche. Lannister lines crumple under the weight of fresh knights. Spears splinter, shields shatter, panic erupts. Roose Bolton, ever calculating, commands the Brotherhood and the Riverland footmen to charge in tandem, hemming in the Lannisters from the west. Archers loose from two angles. The battlefield becomes a trap. Tywin's generals scream orders to reform, but there is no formation to be had. Knights fall, horses bolt, men drown trying to flee across the fork. Stannis, seizing the moment, lifts Lightbringer overhead.
Advance!
His army surges forward with renewed fury. Axes rise, swords plunge. The riverbank becomes a slaughterhouse. Tywin Lannister, seeing the tide turn, orders a retreat. But it's too late. His host shatters. He tries to escape, but the Brotherhood is in hot pursuit, keeping close watch of him and never far behind, until at last they corner him and finish off the Lord of Castle Rock. With Tywin dead, the leadership of House Lannister falls into disarray. Tyrion is executed for the murder of Joffrey. Cersei is in the Faith's custody, and Jaime remains a prisoner in the north. This leaves only Kevan to pick up the pieces as best he can. Meanwhile, the Tyrells have been bloodied. They remain a threat, especially as Mace moves to secure the throne for his daughter. This means defeating the last credible claimant to the Iron Throne. He gathers his army, including the remnants of Tywin's army, who march by his side. Mace marches under the hope of using his victory over Stannis to shore up their reputation and make themselves appear loyal to defenders of the faith. In the lush hills outside Bitterbridge, Mace Tyrell rallies what remains of the shattered Lannister Tyrell host. Survivors trickle in, mud-streaked, bleeding, leaderless. He puffs out his chest, trying to appear the noble commander, but his face is pale.
We still hold the reach. We have the numbers. We will regroup here and crush the pretenders.
Scouts are dispatched. Supply lines are restored. Bannermen march from the city, their allegiances still sworn to the Iron Throne. Mace prepares to march again. They move to the Riverlands to confront Stannis and his host, but while his army marches out, sand-colored banners appear on the horizon behind him. The Dornish army, long idle in the south, finally bestirs itself. At its head rides Arya Hota, towering beside Lady Obara and Sir Daemon Sand, carrying the Martell sun and spear high. Their ranks move swiftly, cutting through abandoned watchposts and border towns with barely a pause.
Strike them when they think the battle's won.
No mercy. Not for what you did to Oberyn.
The Reach is not prepared. Dorne tears through southern villages, burning storehouses, capturing castles, and forcing Mace's already fractured forces into disarray. Then a second Dornish force, small but elite, rides north. They meet with Stannis near the ruins of Harrenhal under the command of Lady Nym. There, Roose Bolton, Brienne, and the Vale Lords convene beside the King's Fire as the Martell banners ride into camp.
It appears we are not alone.
Dawn enters the war, at last.
The stars are aligning. The fires speak of victory.
Mace Tyrell, desperate and confused, marches his remaining host toward Highgarden, hoping to retake ground and rally more lords. His scouts report no sign of Stannis, but they do not return from the south. The trap closes. Stannis hits the Tyrell host from the north. Vale cavalry smashes into their left flank. As the Tyrells wheel to face the new threat, Dorne crashes into their rear. Arios sweeping his axe around in furious arcs that cut through men-at-arms. Beside him, Obara twists her spear and sweeps men off their feet. The phalanx of close-moving Dornishmen follows, battering their rear lines. Robb Stark rides into battle from the east with the northern host, the direwolf banner flying high. Sansa, now safely behind the front lines, has freed his hand. Beside him, Brienne keeps close, protecting her king from would-be killers. The battle becomes a slaughter. Sir Garland dies on the field. Mace Tyrell, unhorsed, is pulled from the fray by retreating bannermen. His enemy is routed. Thousands fall, many surrender. The banners of Highgarden collapse into the river as Mace is captured. He is forced to agree to humiliating terms that strip him of his lordship over the Reach, passing that honor to Brightwater Keep and Marjorie to be removed from the throne. With the Lannisters and Tyrells defeated, Stannis marches on King's Landing, which is practically unguarded. Though the High Sparrow extols people to rise, few do, as they see little reason to risk their necks for a boy king, and most Goldcloaks happily open the gates for them, letting Stannis at last sit the Iron Throne. As he eases into it, he regards his new bannermen curiously. He looks over at the Dornish in particular. While the others have bled themselves for this rule, he regards them differently.
When I summoned my banners, you were the last to answer, and only after Lord Tywin was killed. One would have cause to question their loyalty.
A reasonable assumption, which is why Prince Doran is also providing you with information for your war effort. You believe that Lord Tywin is the final foe of this war. There is another.
Another?
We did wait out the war, because we were waiting for another to come to our aid. Daenerys Targaryen, the conqueror of Slaver's Bay.
The Targaryen girl? She plans on marching here.
Prince Doran has considered allying with her, promising his spears if she agreed to marry his son. And yet all that ever happened was her dragons burned him alive. She claims it was an accident. But if she is lying, then she is a murderer. And if she is telling the truth, then she is incompetent. Either way, we will not join forces with her.
Stannis Baratheon stands at a brazier. The flames dance low, casting red shadows across a map of Westeros. His eyes trace the eastern seas, the lands beyond the narrow sea. Victory after victory has pushed him to the gates of the capital. The lion has been broken. The wolf has joined him. The Vale and Dorne now kneel. But a shadow looms over all his kingdom to be.
I have no answer for dragons.
He dismisses his bannermen to ponder the question. He tries to think of a strategy that he might use against her, but nothing comes to mind. And he thinks so hard that he does not notice Roose Bolton entering the chamber, followed closely by Melisandre.
The Dragon Queen. What is she in your flames?
A storm wrapped in fire. A child of old Valyria, with beasts born of flame. If she comes, the world will burn again.
And she will come. There is no conventional defense against her beasts. But perhaps there is another way. So what then? Another ritual?
There is only one way to strike her before she reaches our shores. Blood. King's blood.
You said it's too risky for me to try.
No. We still have the Kingslayer. Joffrey is his blood and seed.
He surrendered. He's a prisoner. This is murder. This is strategy.
He tried to escape captivity after swearing an oath to accept it. As far as I'm concerned, he forfeit his chance for protection. Your god is a cruel one, but this is a cruel world. Very well. Do what you must, but be sure it will succeed. There are no second chances from this.
They sail east under the cover of darkness, aboard a black ship that cuts silently across the waters of Slaver's Bay. On a cliff overlooking Marine, they build a pyre. Daenerys had just beaten back the Slaver Coalition, so the mood is festive, especially as she prepares her armada to sail west. A fleet of captured slaver ships, converted merchant galleys, and countless more. The air is still. The moon hangs like a blade. Jaime Lannister stands bound, stripped of gold and arrogance, his face gaunt, his eyes unyielding. He does not scream. He only stares at Roose.
Do it then. You'll win nothing with this.
That is where you are mistaken.
He throws a torch onto the pyre as Melisandre begins to chant, her voice weaving through the air like smoke. Roose Bolton watches from the shadows, his face unreadable, eyes fixed on every detail of the rite, memorizing it, savoring it. The flames roar to life. Jaime's screams rick through the sky, echoing across the bay. The fire twists and coils, forming shapes, faces, visions. A boy, pale-haired, drowned in flames and gold. A girl with silver hair, crying in the darkness. A mad king with burning eyes. Far across the water, in Marine, Daenerys Targaryen wakes screaming. She watches all of the visions. She watches her brother screaming, his face wreathed in a burning crown of gold, accusing her of murder. She sees the sunken eyes of children who had been murdered by her dragons, or to warn her. There are screams of Lazarene, who are violated by Drogo's Khalasar. Her skin is slick with sweat. She clutches her head as voices shriek in her mind.
Burn them all. Burn them all.
Viserys whispers behind her ear. The Mad King laughs within her skull. Then she feels it. Pain in her soul. As though fire claws at her from within. And the dragons feel it too. Drogon lets out a roar that shakes the pyramids. Rhaegal and Viserion rise with him, snarling, confused, and panicked. Their bond with Daenerys is seared by unseen forces. It is as if they are being flayed and urged to lash out. And then, without warning, they take to the skies. The invasion fleet waits, anchored in neat lines along the coast. Sleek black ships bearing unsullied Dothraki and hopeful exiles. Captains ready the sails. Officers shout orders. Then, the sky goes black. The dragons descend in a frenzy, eyes wild with confusion and pain. Drogon's fire sweeps across the masts, turning sails to ash. Viserion screams and dives, igniting a cluster of galleys. Rhaegal's flames engulf the harbor itself. Men jump into the sea. Ships buckle and break. Hundreds perish in moments. Daenerys runs toward the coast, barefoot and breathless, screaming for them, but they do not hear her. They are too far gone. On the cliffs above, the ritual ends. The flames are low. Jaime Lannister is gone, his ashes drifting into the bay. The wind howls. In the distance, the dragons fly away from the city, leaving behind a smoldering fleet.
It worked.
She lives, but she is wounded. Her mind is cracked. Her beasts must be chained again.
How long?
Months, perhaps years. It will take time to rebuild her fleet, and longer to tame her dragons once more.
Then our work here is done.
When the pair returns to King's Landing, Stannis offers his thanks and positions on his small council, Master of Whispers for Melisandre and Master of Law for Roose. Both gladly accept and begin working to hunt down anyone who may be a threat to the new regime, helping to turn the Seven Kingdoms into a single realm. It will take years, but it will allow them to prepare for Daenerys' invasion. That's our theory. Westeros is a land filled with exciting stories and possibilities, and we love exploring them. If you want to accompany us on this journey across the Seven Kingdoms and beyond, then please like, share, and subscribe to our channel.